Good day everyone, Craig Satilla from CRPG Legends here, and today I am here with my review of Cyberpunk 2077, and we are going to discuss if the game really is as big of a dumpster fire as the media and fans are making it out to be. Now, this review is for the PC version of the game only, as I have not played the game on any of the last gen or next gen consoles. This review is also going to be spoiler free. I am not going to talk about the actual story beats, just about whether they are satisfying or not. Now, I took my time getting through the game and writing this review, making sure I got a taste of everything the game had to offer. Initially, I had released a day one video about the game when I first started playing, and at that point, I was at my maximum level of hype. The game looked and ran great, and during those first few hours, I didn't encounter any real bugs. But that would definitely change as I accumulated more and more hours of gameplay, and it really took me through a roller coaster of an experience. At certain points, you could be completely immersed within the excellent story and the beautiful world, having a next level experience, and then some ridiculous glitch would pop up and it would all crumble around you in an instant. This generally sucks anytime you play a game, but can sometimes be overlooked. In Cyberpunk 2077, this happens to you over and over again. There is only so many times immersion can be broken before it becomes frustrating, and chances are high you will reach that point at least once during your playthrough of Cyberpunk. This game really can be a dumpster fire at times, but when it gets things right, it's pretty amazing. Now, I have already covered a few games on this channel that have had their fair share of hardship, but are still remembered as great experiences by gamers around the world. Are we going to put this game in with that group? Well, let's take a look and discuss both the highs and the lows of Cyberpunk 2077. Before we go into the systems, the character creator, the gameplay, and so much more, I want to talk about the graphics, because on a high-end PC, this game is among the best looking games you will ever play. The lighting effects are unreal, and the world looks absolutely jaw-dropping gorgeous. The only other world that is on par with this world that I have seen in terms of looks is Red Dead Redemption 2. At no point in this game did I ever feel the visuals were lacking, but like most games, we know that having good graphics doesn't mean you are a good game. But in Cyberpunk's case, it definitely helps. So please enjoy the visuals in this video. I sure as hell did while I played. Now, you don't need a ray tracing card for this game to look great either. My partner Amberly played the game on our gaming laptop with a GTX 1660, and the game still looked great and performed great at 1920 by 1080. But having ray tracing definitely helps give it that next level push. Cyberpunk starts off promising enough. The character creator is pretty robust. It has an extensive set of options to help you dial in how you want your character to look. It gets bonus points for tackling some of the gender diversity issues and allows you to mix and match whether you look male or female, whether you sound masculine or feminine, and what genitals you have. Could it have gone further? Of course. But it is better than a lot of other character creators when it comes to these type of concerns. It does lack in allowing you to pick the body shape for your character, so you can only be a muscular, fit type character. The downside is that you spend a lot of time making your character's appearance and then very rarely get to actually see your character in the game, and you aren't able to change their appearance along the way. Despite the fact that this is a world where people are augmenting and changing their bodies all the time, you even run into characters and have quests focused around people who have changed their appearance in the world, so it's a real shame that A, the majority of the time you see your character will be on the inventory screen, and B, if you are unhappy with your character, it's too bad. I gave my character spiderweb eyes, and I wish I could have changed it later. I thought it was cool when I created him, but the thought of him talking to some of the characters in heartfelt moments and my character staring back with spiderweb eyes kinda disturbs me. You then get to pick your backstory, which basically sets up some unique conversation options for while you play the game, giving you insight on certain quests, which is cool, and allows you to play a short opener that sets up your relationship with the character Jackie Wells. I went through my playthrough as a street kid, but there is also a Corpo and Nomad playthrough, and I played these intros just to check them out. These ultimately don't seem to have a huge effect on playthrough other than flavoring the world around you. I don't think they had anywhere the level of impact that, say, the origin stories in Dragon's Age Origins had, but they are still fun. The Nomad intro is kind of funny and it gives you access to a car right away. The Street Kid one was a fun way to unite V with Jackie, and the Corpo one is the most intense, and on my Corpo character I'm hoping we get to see more of what happens with that thread of the story. But they all lead us pretty much to the same place, being a moderately successful low-level merc in the Watson territory of Night City where the main story starts to unfold. Initially, you are locked to this one area of Night City while Act 1 takes place. Here, you get to start to form relationships with some of the great characters in Night City, and this is what Cyberpunk excels at. The main characters you interact with are consistently great throughout the story. The relationships feel realistic. You will want to see more of your friends. You will get invested in their stories. You will want to help these people. Jackie, Pan Am, Judy, River, Carrie, Claire, and of course Johnny Silverhands. This is the glue that keeps you tethered to the game even when the game is literally falling apart around you. The character writing in this game, like other CD Projekt Red games, is second to none. Rockstar comes close, and so did BioWare at one point, but after playing through the Witcher games and now Cyberpunk, I really think no one does characters better than CD Projekt Red. This is helped by the outstanding quality of voice acting in this game. Keanu Reeves might be the most suspect of voice actors in this group, but I will say that 90% of the time, I really think he did a great job with Johnny Silverhands. The character grows on you the more time you spend with him throughout the game, and I eventually loved sharing my brain with him, especially since we didn't always agree with how things should happen. Johnny is a fun and unique narrative device. He doesn't really affect the gameplay at all in terms of your abilities or anything, but he will directly affect your narrative in one way or the other, and I enjoyed having him along for the ride. Once the game starts to open up and you get to spend some time in the world, you start to see that there is still a lot of work to be done. The NPCs in Night City are plentiful, but they don't have a lot of AI. They don't really react to your presence, and if you sit back and watch them for a bit, you will see some of the AI issues. Like, for example, if we watch these guys here walk in a big square. What you doing, guys? Is this some sort of parade? Also, sometimes if you look away and look back, the NPCs will just disappear or change. Definitely not game breaking, but also definitely needs some work. But honestly, I've seen some tweaks to their behavior so far as the patches have been rolling out, but it started out pretty abysmally. Computer-controlled vehicles are also not much better. Their pathing has been improved slightly in the limited updates we have received, but they are still just obstacles on the road. If you park your vehicle on the streets, cars will just line up behind it. Drivers won't go around, they just make this massive queue of vehicles. I am sure NPC driving will get where it needs to be over time, but as a result, the world feels really populated but feels pretty lifeless. I would have liked to have seen more NPCs interacting realistically with one another. You do get some conversations here and there, but it does feel more like a zombie world than something living and dynamic. Based on the fact we have seen some fixes means that this will start to get better over time, but it's not okay for a game to be released like this. Another system you get to see early on that is broken is the wanted system. First of all, it is very easy to commit a crime and draw the focus of the police in Night City. Sometimes you can accidentally hit a bystander while driving and the cops get called, or you will be taking out a gang for the police, and if you move beyond the constraints of the invisible walls programmed in for these little missions, you will gain wanted levels and the police will be called. When you do get a wanted level, the police are supposed to give chase, but you literally just have to drive like a block away and the wanted level will just disappear. The system is so broken that I don't even know why it's in the game. It isn't really a nuisance. It doesn't really do much of anything, and I really just ignored it throughout the game. It's awful. In a game like Grand Theft Auto, where the wanted system works quite well, the system will make you more conscious of your actions. It can also lead to some crazy moments where you try to run from a minor crime and it just escalates into something that just gets out of hand and can end up leading to a lot of fun as more and more powerful police forces get called in. This doesn't happen in Cyberpunk because the system is just broken. It's that simple. This is broken and should have just been removed until it was ready for prime time. The game is also a loot shooter in the way that games like Diablo and Borderlands are always flooding you with new weapons, armor, and items of varying quality for you to sift through and constantly be upgrading. Cyberpunk is loaded with enemies dropping all kinds of items of different quality. Except there only seems to be a handful of gun models, and the items you find tend to be just a DPS upgrade of the same type of weapon. There are smart guns with homing bullets and guns you can charge to release, but I didn't like any of these varieties. I like using guns that work like your standard fare run-of-the-mill gun. So for me personally, I was always finding a bunch of guns I really didn't like to use, and in some cases was using less powerful guns because it was just more fun to shoot them. It's not like they did a bad job of making it a loot shooter, but they didn't do a great job. So it is just a system you navigate through and not one that really makes the game any more fun. I am sure with some work they could add some more weapon variety and make this part of the game a lot more fun, but right now it's just a bit lackluster. I did find out maybe a bit too late that guns could be upgraded throughout the game, so some of my favorite early level guns might not have had to be replaced. The armor, though, is a whole different matter. The game basically gives clothes, increasing armor stats as you go, so that beanie you find on a body might give you more armor than the helmet you are currently wearing, or the trench coat might be more protective than the body armor. It's not really different than any other loot shooter, but it does make for some really ridiculous looks throughout the game. This isn't the biggest issue since you only really see yourself in third person in the odd special mirror and the menu system, or if you ride the motorbike in third person, but man, you talk about looking like a murder hobo. In Cyberpunk, that is more often than not the case. The game does have a photo mode, and this photo mode is really good, and I have used it to take some really fun and memorable photos of my time through the game. I really love that games are adding a photo mode, as when a game looks as good as this, you can use it to create a multitude of great photos. So I didn't want to miss mentioning this part of the game and allowing you to see just a few of the pics that I have taken along the way, as I didn't even start using the photo mode until more than halfway through the game. But it's honestly a lot of fun, and I found myself interrupting conversations that were important just so I could get a quick pic in. The game also has a ton of stuff to do. If you look at the map, it is full of icons, so many icons you don't know where to start. Every zone has a quest giver known as a fixer that has missions for you, and these are usually fairly decent. There is also a lot of padding in this as well though, as the game is loaded with NCPD missions where you must run in and shoot a bunch of enemies and take their documents. It's a time sink, and none of these NCPD missions have really been more than filler gaming. But some of the other side quests and gigs you come across in the city have way more depth, and they really take you on some unique quests. Unfortunately, it's just impossible to tell the difference whether a quest is just going to be going out and killing a bunch of guys in the middle of nowhere, or whether one's going to have some long and meaningful story. So you just got to pick and choose. When it comes to the actual gameplay of the game though, it is hard to talk about this game without talking about Deus Ex, another very cyberpunky game taking place in a dystopian future. Like Deus Ex, this game allows you to navigate through a lot of its levels by going in loud with guns blazing, or taking it slow and stealthily, going through the level, hacking your way through systems and doors, and remaining unavoided. NPCs also have so many mods to their bodies that you can hack enemies as well, which gives you another advantage as you try to remain hidden while you work through the levels. I did find hacking and sneaking to be very difficult at the start, but my character was definitely designed to confront enemies with his guns. As I made my way through the game and understood how to hack and sneak better and use the limited enemy AI to my advantage, I was able to become much better at sneaking. But like most sneaking games, I cheesed it a lot with quick saves. You will, however, become more skilled in these systems as you use them, as the system for leveling is something like a hybrid. You have major skills which govern minor skills. Your major skills are body, reflexes, technical ability, intelligence, and cool. These skills are raised by putting a point into one of the trees every time you level. Now, each main skill governs 2 minor skills, which you will level by using those skills, but they will never outpace the amount of points you have in their major skill. Now, this sounds confusing, but it really works like this. Handguns are governed by the reflex skill. But if my reflex skill is 2, my handgun skill will never exceed 2. If my reflex skill is 16, my handgun skill might still be 2, but if I start to use handguns in the game frequently, I can now raise my handgun skill to a maximum of 16. And once I do, it would be capped again until you raise your reflex skill. You get a perk point to put in a minor skill whenever you level as a character or whenever you get a skill up. So if you raise your handgun from level 2 to level 3, you get a perk point. So something to pay attention to while leveling: if you have 15 points in reflex and your closest supporting minor skill is only at 9, maybe hold on to that major skill point until you see one of your secondary abilities that you use getting capped out before you spend it. It might pay off better in the long run. These types of systems are good systems if the perks are worth it. I think there are a lot of bad perks in the game that don't necessarily help your character overall, mainly due to a balance issue. Like the blades tree has a lot of points that allow your blades to stack bleeds on enemy, but once I got the actual mantis blades body mod, I could kill enemies with my blades so fast that I don't even think the bleeds really did anything. And if they did, I'm not sure how to check if they are even applied. A lot of the trees are like this. I definitely think that the perks could be tightened up a bit. You don't want to be able to create a god type character that is great at everything, but you also want your skill selection to be a little bit of a difficult choice. It's nice to see these sprawling trees, but it's tough to go that route unless it works for every skill. It's easy to make a sprawling workable tree for guns that you use a significant portion of your time playing in comparison to crafting. That being said, I want to stress, I was a guns and blades character. I have a second character I am playing with that is trying to get by with mainly sneaking and hacking, and we will see how that character ends up. Maybe the system is more robust than I expected, but I strongly believe that it still needs some cleaning up. Driving is a big part of the game as well, and like most of the game, it doesn't feel super refined. It looks really good. It basically looks like GTA when it comes to driving, and GTA was a hell of a lot of fun to drive around in. But this is not GTA. For one thing, the hit detection is hit and miss. In some cases, you plow through other vehicles and obstacles, and in other cases, you get stopped dead by the most minor of things. Cars don't handle well. Different types of terrain don't seem to make much of an effect. The handling doesn't really change when it is raining versus when it is dry. The controls aren't great, and the mini-map is awful for getting around because as your car accelerates, the map doesn't zoom out. So you just overshoot your turns and are always making these U-turns to go back and, get that last turn you missed. That being said, despite the physics, I really did enjoy getting on my motorcycle and driving around. It was an amazing way to view the city. It just didn't make me want to get a bunch of different vehicles and collect them the way I love to do in GTA. So like a lot of the other systems, the driving needs work. The stealth and hacking systems are decent once you get used to them. Being stealthy in this game needs a pretty decent level of awareness as there are enemies and cameras everywhere. The cameras can be deactivated though, or turned against their enemies and used to spot other enemy locations. They can also be used to distract enemies and pull them away from the location they are currently watching. This isn't the best stealth in gaming, but it was more than serviceable, and I liked sneaking around and disabling cameras and turrets and sneaking up on guards and silently dispatching them before hiding their bodies in a dumpster somewhere. I did find that even if you think you hide a body pretty good, chances are it will be found unless you put it in a dumpster or something. I get it. If my coworker was missing, I don't think I would overlook seeing his crumpled corpse in a shadow by a bunch of barrels. So in comparison to a lot of other games, I think Cyberpunk has some fun stealth if it can be a little broken here and there. Hacking was pretty simple once you figured it out. Basically, you can play a mini game to make your hacking easier and upload some advantages into an enemy system if you are spec'd that way. You can also use quick hacks to disable cameras and enemies, which is done by using your scan mode. It's really quite intuitive. People call it Watch Dogs hacking, but I still haven't really played any of those games despite owning all three of them. So if this is Watch Dogs hacking, then it is a very serviceable system because the hacking in this game is pretty good. I found the shooting a lot of fun as well, as long as I had normal operating guns. I had a lot more fun with a regular gun or melee weapons than I did with these smart guns or the charged power guns. Smart guns, you just aim in the general vicinity of the enemy, even if they are behind cover, and the bullets just seem to home in on their target. It just didn't seem near as satisfying as getting a well-placed headshot or flying around and destroying enemies with your mantis blades. And I will say, once you get those mantis blades, you become the whirling fury of death incarnate. These are probably the most overpowered weapons I encountered early in the game. You can easily whip around the maps, absolutely eviscerating enemies. I would often try to go the stealth route, and if I screwed up, would just sprint around the map in a frenzy, slaughtering any opponent I could get my hands on. It was honestly a lot of fun, but definitely a little out of balance with some of the other options available. It's been a lot harder to kill a room full of enemies with hacking than it has been to kill them with my mantis blades. Now, this being an RPG with such power variance between weapons, the well-placed headshot to the back of the head might not actually kill an enemy, so that can be frustrating to deal with, knowing that when you sneak up on someone and you get that well-placed shot, it might only result in chaos and not success. But I think most people who play RPGs on a regular basis are used to systems like this, so I don't know if that's a huge negative for this game. So like Deus Ex, you can hack, shoot, or stealth your way through most of the game. Luckily enough, I just finished Deus Ex in the past few months, and I will say, although Deus Ex was a great game, I much prefer the gameplay and story I received it playing Cyberpunk 2077. It's just a shame it frequently gets interrupted by bugs. So let's talk about those pesky bugs. Although the bugs I have experienced haven't caused too many issues with progressing through the game, I have had to reload once or twice to progress, but the majority are just really odd visual glitches or clipping issues, or just the facade of gaming magic not working quite right. But the glitches are generally funny or absurd when they happen, and some gamers are still able to just laugh them off. But when you start to feel immersed in a game that does things right, the story just seems to resonate that much more. A good example of this is Red Dead Redemption 2, which had a really ambitious scope and world as well, but managed a much smoother launch, and as a result, the game did a better job of immersing you in the world. That game also suffered from setbacks and delays as well, but they did release a much more finished product. So let's just take a quick look at some of the glitches that I captured while I was playing through the game. One scene when we were riding to do a job for Pan Am, I was mysteriously stuck inside of her head. Like I could see the back of her eyeballs floating around in her head as she was driving me to our destination, which was pretty weird. There are some interesting issues at times with vehicles, like when you call them and they pop out from the ground, or this one where I got in my car and suddenly I am vibrating around like crazy and cars start exploding around me, and it turns out my car is just stuck clipped into the pavement. Also, sometimes you're driving around and the world just loads in front of you, like this building. One of the ones that upsets me the most, and I'm not even sure if it is even a glitch, is that you will always see some headlights and traffic in the distance, but it's a facade. It never gets any closer, and it's super unrealistic. It adds nothing to the game, and it only detracts, and I hate it. I mentioned sometimes the gaming magic disappears, such as in this quest with a chase scene in which you can clearly see the car get loaded into position before you reach the intersection. I might not have noticed this one if I hadn't been paying extra attention, because this quest also featured a moment when the game just changed from overcast to clear at a certain point. Sometimes the game just loads the same assets in the same place. Sometimes the pathing is just goofy and characters walk through stuff. Really early in the game, cars would path too close to the curbs around your apartment building and just send garbage flying everywhere. The worst of these bug offenses come in game when things don't go right with the quest missions, like in this interrogation scene where Rogue is off in the corner talking to the wall instead of the person she is actually supposed to talk to. It is just kind of frustrating, and it sucks that these kind of things are happening in a AAA title. Or sometimes you're having dialogue with a quest mission and suddenly you get a phone call from another quest giver and both dialogues get stacked on top of each other. And in this case, I tried to use the mouse wheel to pick an answer, and I pulled out my weapons and I screwed up the other quest and everything just went to hell. I had to reload and it sucked really bad. This shouldn't be acceptable. We shouldn't have to beta test AAA games. Why should we have to pay our hard-earned money for a game that is definitely not ready for prime time? This is early access level garbage. This is the kind of stuff that makes it hard to recommend a game from CD Projekt Red on release, because this is not the first time they have done this. In fact, this is kind of the norm for them. But on the other hand, historically they have busted their butts working on their games after release. Witcher 1 got the much needed enhanced edition. Witcher 3 had a ton of the game overhauled to get it where it is today. Plus they released the best DLC in the industry. But we shouldn't cut CD Projekt Red any slack for this. They are a giant in the industry now. We need a better example to be set by them. But the industry is a double-edged sword. Most fans and shareholders hate delays. They also hate unfinished products, so finding that balancing is hard. However, that is their job, and honestly the fans will appreciate the delays if they get a polished product. If you delay and give us Daikatana, people will be upset. And honestly, this is probably close to that Daikatana level that destroyed Ion Storm, except that devs today are actually able to keep working and patching after games go gold. Which is why after shitting on a lot of the game and the systems and saying how we shouldn't stand for this kind of shit, it makes me a big hypocrite. I pre-ordered this game, something I normally only do for World of Warcraft expansions. I was sold on the hype. I just wanted it, and I got a definitely unfinished game that I absolutely loved playing. I am sorry. I have talked before about loving broken games. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a prime example on my channel that I talk about. It is okay to love bad things. I enjoy bad movies, bad TV shows, I love bad songs, and I play some fundamentally bad games and enjoy them. Cyberpunk is an unfinished game that I just love to jump into and play. I know that I might get frustrated, and I know that some things might break, and I might have to reload, but I love being V and exploring the world, even if it is predictable a lot of the time. I think as a reviewer and someone who's trying to think critical about games, it's okay to like bad games as long as you can admit that there are flaws in the game, as long as you don't accept those flaws as something good. You can be critical about things and enjoy bad things. The journey I took as V was a memorable one. The story was fulfilling. The people I met along the way enhanced my journey. I had characters I loved and characters I loathed. They made the story central and pertinent to my character's life. It wasn't about saving the world this time. It was about being selfish and preserving your own life and the things that matter to you. The big baddie in this game wasn't trying to blow up the world or kill everyone. It was just another major corporation trying to preserve their own interests, and I got caught up in the middle of it, and in the end, it's a battle for my own existence. Whether you succeed or fail, the average citizen is probably going to be in the same boat they were in before, and that's okay. It was amazing to have this grand, self-centered adventure, and while I touched upon so many people central to this world, the ramifications of my actions with them towards the outside world were either not examined or downplayed, and I was okay with that because my character cared about survival. I liked that. So, despite the bugs in this game, I want to jump in and do some missions with Johnny. I want to race cars with Claire. I want to explore the desert with Pan Am, help River solve some crimes, hang out with Judy, have a drink with Carrie. Ultimately, V just wants to live, and the desire to get your life back is shared with others throughout the game. The people you meet are better off because you come into their lives. A lot of them have lost their focus on what's important in their worlds, and it's your desire to get your own life back on track that spurs them forward to get their lives back on track. It's an amazing journey to explore. I go to bed at night and I think about the characters in this game. I got that Christmas feeling moment when it was too late for me to finish the game up because I was too tired to start the final mission, and I woke up early the next morning to run and finish it because I wanted to see how it ended. And I wanted to spend more time with my friends in the game. The ending I received was satisfying as well. It didn't wrap everything up, but I was satisfied with it, and I was hungry to do it again. I want to meet these characters again for the first time. Isn't that what a great game is really about? Unfortunately, the answer is neither yes or no. It's a shame the game was unfinished. It really is. It might be worth waiting a while longer while they polish the game up and really get it where it needs to be. And who knows how long that might be, with the console edition basically being in shambles from the sound of it. But I can't blame you if you choose to buy it now, or have already bought it and played it, and shared the same opinion of it as me. Cyberpunk 2077 for me is the definition of loving a dumpster fire. I don't want to move on to a different game yet. I want to spend more time in this world despite knowing it is in my best interest to play it again once it has had some work and not just jump back in right now. But that says a lot about this game. Hindsight says they probably should have scrapped the wanted system and the overabundance of NCPD kill quests, and maybe a few of the other things in order to get this game in a better place before launch, and then maybe rolled those things out later, but it's too late now. This review is me openly admitting that this game was released unfinished and broken, but I had so much fun playing it in its broken state, I can't wait to play it again once it's all patched up. This was a fun game, and this is what loving a dumpster fire looks like. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in. I really do appreciate people watching my videos, commenting on my videos, giving me feedback. I really do enjoy doing this. Please, you can check out my website. You can check out my Twitch stream. You can check out my Patreon page. I like to basically play RPGs, Minecraft, and World of Warcraft. So I'll see you again next time, everybody. Thanks a lot.